You've found Wicked on Wisconsin, your one-stop podcast for all things Packers, Brewers, Bucks, and the rest of your favorite teams from all over the state of Wisconsin. We're powered by Wisconsin Sports Heroics, online at wisportsheroics.com and the Wisconsin Podcast Association. And now, here's your host, Mike Wicked.
Yo, welcome in, Wicked on Wisconsin. A couple of days after Christmas. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and hopefully you have a great New Year. I will not lie. About 6 weeks ago, if you would have told me that we were going to do this podcast this late in the year and still be talking about the Packers with a shot at making the playoffs, I would have said you were nuts, because I have done this podcast now all season long. And when they went, 1-4 in that string of tough games, I mean, the Commanders shouldn't have been tough, but they lost. They shouldn't have lost to the Lions, but they did. They probably weren't going to go into Buffalo and beat the Bills, but they hung with Buffalo, and they hung with the Eagles, and they beat the Cowboys. But they were 1-4 in that 5-game stretch. And I've been on record as saying there's no get-right games left. You know, at this point in the year, you are who you are. You have set yourself so far back behind the 8 ball. Whether that is on Brian Gutekunst or Matt LaFleur or Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I've talked about it at length, and I don't want to repeat the same podcast that I've done. But if you would have told me that when I got done recording and uploading that podcast, and thank you to everyone who has listened to it, that come December 28th, I'd be doing a podcast and the Packers would still have a 50% shot and a real good chance, and a good 50% shot to get in. You know, a couple of weeks ago, the playoff percentages for Green Bay, I think it was 4%, and then it was 9%, and then it was 13%, and then a Christmas miracle happened where the Seahawks lost, the Lions lost, the Commanders lost, the Giants lost, and the Packers won at Miami. Maybe the most improbable of all of those was Green Bay going and beating the Dolphins. Talk more about that game here in a second. I am shocked that we're still talking about the Packers in the playoffs, and I'm happy about it. I'm happily wrong. I'm often happily wrong. Sometimes I'm unhappily right, but today I'm happily wrong. I did not, this happens a lot in baseball especially. I think Brewers fans are notorious for this. That opening week series, sometimes it's against the Cubs or the Cardinals or whatever, and they get beat 7-1, 8-0, and 2-1. And you're just like, well, season's over. And those people are ridiculous because the Brewers have had a lot of success in the last, decade and a half, over 162 games, getting to the postseason. Something I think if you're a longtime Brewers fan, you never would have expected. So here we are now with the Packers. After that horrific 1-5 stretch, they were 3-1 to start the year. They lose to the Jets. They lose to the Giants in London. And then New York again, the Jets at Lambeau. Then that tough stretch. And you're like, dude, they're 4-8. There ain't no way. And here they are now. After that win at Miami. And that win at Miami, I don't know. Maybe I've gotten to this point, and maybe you are too, where my expectation of the postseason and any kind of magic carpet ride, as my good buddy Steve Sparky Pfeiffer called the 2010 run to the Super Bowl. Maybe I just thought, and probably still do, that was not going to happen. There's no shot Green Bay goes on a magic carpet ride. They can't. They don't have the passing game. They don't stay committed to the run enough. You're always worried about special teams rearing its ugly head. And the defense. The defense is entirely predictably soft. And they don't make enough plays, and they're not tough enough. And then they won 3 in a row. And here they are sitting at 7-8. 7-8? Yeah, 7-8 with 2 games to play. They got the Vikings, and they got the Lions. Both games at Lambeau. Because football is so funny like that, isn't it? I mean, think about the narrative surrounding Let's get away from the Packers here for a second. Everything you thought about the AFC West in August. Chiefs are going to come back down to everybody because Tyreek Hill is gone. Broncos are bringing in Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. Boy, it's going to be a great marriage. Josh McDaniels, they add Devontae Adams. Derek Carr gets his boy to throw to, his buddy from college. You pair him with Renfro and Waller. Raiders are going to be good. And then everybody jumped on the Chargers bandwagon because they added Khalil Mack. And what has happened in the 3 months since the season began? Well, the Chargers have lived up to some expectation. They're probably going to make the playoffs. I think they're in, as a matter of fact. First time in a while. Most injured team in the NFL, but they're in, and they're dangerous with Herbert and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams if they're both healthy. And, of course, Austin Eckler. And that defense could be nasty. You think about the Raiders, the expectations. I did not think that Vegas was going to be any good this year, but people thought so. And they did in Vegas. And what's happened? 2 hours ago, we got word that Derek Carr is benched and has left the team because he doesn't want to be a distraction. You have to wonder as a Packers fan, what does Devontae Adams think about not taking the big payday from Green Bay to stay with Aaron Rodgers? I mean, he got paid. He had a heck of a year. Got a lot of touchdowns. Got a lot of yards. But his team is done. Denver, complete disaster. Nathaniel Hackett, the former Packers coordinator, fired. Didn't even last 1 year. Russell Wilson, the savior, the big trade. Who won that trade? Seattle won that trade because Geno Smith can play. They got picks. Fant's a good player. And Denver's not making the postseason. They're going to have a top 5 pick. Oh, no, they're not. Seattle's going to have the top 5 pick. Everything we thought about the AFC West was wrong. Oh, and Patrick Mahomes and company, even without Tyreek Hill, they still run the thing. 7 straight division titles. Everything. The NFL can change because it is a grind. Baseball is a grind. The NBA season is a grind. Everything can change in a matter of 6 weeks. Just look at the Green Bay Packers. They were dead. I did a whole podcast on it. They were dead. I don't think I'm wrong. I think at the time I was right. And I don't necessarily believe that this is going to be 2010-11 running back, but I'll get to that in a second. No, I watched the game on Christmas. I drank a bottle of wine during the game, and I've gotten to the point where I'm still tweeting at Mike Wickett. I'm still tweeting how mad I am that they're not staying committed to the run after 3 straight run plays. You see hero ball. I'm still upset that they're playing 9 yards off the ball on defense, but I'm not mad about the Packers anymore because my expectation for the Packers has absolutely changed. My expectation for this team this year has completely changed. I don't think this is a Super Bowl team. I'm still rooting for them. Like the fan in me has come out. The fan in me is out, as opposed to the media guy or whatever you want to call me, the podcast guy, the critical guy. Like I was still hopeful in that first half when they looked like absolute crap. And they did look like absolute crap. Like nothing Green Bay did in the first half of that game against Miami looked good. Nothing. I can't quite understand why Green Bay doesn't stay committed to the run. I'm done complaining about it. I've done 12 podcasts about Green Bay's non-committal to running the football. It's not going to change. You know, it's like you have that girlfriend and she's not loyal to you. She's not nice to you. It's not going to change. You can complain about it. You can tweet about it. You can Facebook about it. You can Instagram about it. You can do whatever you want to do about it, but it's not going to change. You're not going to see Green Bay play 2 halves of football where Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon each get 10 carries. It's just not going to happen. At the end of the first half, A.J. Dillon had 2 carries. Aaron Jones had 2 carries. And someone named Dylan Levitt had 1 carry on that disaster of a fake punt. Dylan Levitt, who could walk into any place in Green Bay. He could walk into a Cops at Green Bay. Dylan Levitt could walk into a Cops in Green Bay wearing a Levitt jersey, and no one would know who he is. And he had half the carries that Aaron Jones had in the first half of the biggest game of the year. That's a problem. I don't care if he got stepped on. Fine. He had a third of the carries that A.J. Dillon had. That's not right. That's not going to win you football games. And you know what happened at halftime? Some kind of speech, some kind of fired-up speech. They came out and they hammered the ball with A.J. Dillon. Jones got his carries in the second half, and I know he got stepped on. And you know what happened? The offense completely changed. But again, I have done this podcast before. I have done the They Need to Run the Ball podcast. And if you have listened to this podcast before, thank you. If you're brand new, you can go back and listen. It's all over. And I don't want to do the same podcast going into week 17 that I did in week 4 and week 5 and week 9 and week 10. They don't commit to the run. They don't. And whether that's Rodgers or LaFleur. LaFleur said at halftime that Miami was daring them to throw. How about you challenge their run game or their run defense? It's incredibly frustrating as a fan to see the same thing happen. And then when something changes and they decide to run the ball and they have success and the offense looks different and they score points. And you're like, what? Every fan knew. I mean, now national media like Robert Griffin and tweeting out, why aren't they using Aaron Jones? Why don't they use Aaron Jones? Ripping my hair out, all right? I don't have a ton of hair left. I got a 2-car garage going up my forehead. It's just, you've been part of the podcast for a long time. Thank you very much. Also part of the podcast all season, my friends over at Great Lakes Dragaway. Okay, so racing season is past at Great Lakes Dragaway. They're in Union Grove, Wisconsin, but that does not mean that the snow well, that does mean that doesn't mean they're not coming back in the spring. You're not going to see those nitrous nights, those bike nights, those hot rod nights for a little bit, and that's okay, all right? But Great Lakes Dragaway is ready for you when the snow stops flying, when it gets warm, and if you have somebody on your list that you forgot to get them a Christmas present, or maybe somebody's got a birthday coming up in the spring. Heck, I have 4 birthdays in January in my house. 4. Get them a gift card to Great Lakes Dragaway. Go online today, greatlakesdragaway.com. It's the fastest quarter mile in the Midwest. If you're a gearhead, if you know a gearhead, if you forgot somebody that's on your Christmas list that happens to be a gearhead, go grab that gift card right now. It makes for a wonderful birthday present. Father's Day coming up in the spring, summer. I know it's a long way away. We just had the blizzard roll through and wind chills 50 below. But Great Lakes Dragaway will be back. Be ready. Check out their entire calendar, their entire schedule, greatlakesdragaway.com. They've been an awesome partner. We appreciate them here on the podcast. So now what for the Packers, right? Like what's happened this week? David Bakhtiari back practicing. Christian Watson stretched, did not practice as of today. He's got the hip thing. Bakhtiari after the appendectomy. We'll see what percentage he is at. I expect him to go, but I don't know. You've got the shin and the foot injury now for Aaron Jones. What percentage is he going to be at? I'm fine if he doesn't get a ton of carries, but on the flip side, A.J. Dillon has to get his share of carries. Because A.J. Dillon is proving to be a guy worthy of getting those carries, especially when he does not hesitate and he hits the hole and goes. That's when he's the best. When he waits and waits. To me, he's more, and maybe I'm wrong on this, he's not a zone blocking back. Wait and see what develops and go. He's a hit the A-gap kind of running back. It's thunder and lightning with those two guys. Now, you got Romeo Doubs back. It's good to see. Hopefully, he can get caught back up and be at full speed for this game against the Minnesota Vikings. On the defensive side, Dean Lowry going to the IR. I am excited. I think a lot of people are not to see Dean Lowry get hurt because despite the criticism that he gets, he was having possibly his best year in Green Bay. But You saw some of Devontae Wyatt, the first-round pick out of Georgia. You saw some of him. And you saw some of why they took him in the first round. I have said that I love the draft pick of Devontae Wyatt. Give me all the Georgia speed, all the Georgia linemen, all the SEC athletes. I think the two hardest positions to get in the National Football League, especially when you go into a team that is as talented at the two positions as Green Bay. Quarterback, obvious. Defensive line. I mean, they've got a lot of talent on that defensive line. They've spent a lot of draft stock and signed some free agents on that defensive line, and people were very critical of the Devontae Wyatt pick. And with Devontae Wyatt finally getting some run, I think he played 24 snaps, the most he's played all year in the game in Miami, and he looked good doing it. It bodes well. This draft class, I am telling you, from Quay Walker, who looks like a missile, questionable coverage skills, don't care, rookie, fine. When he attacks the quarterback and he pursues receivers and running backs on angles, dude's he's a missile. Love the late season progression out of Devontae Wyatt. I've done multiple podcasts on what a big fan of Christian Watson that I am. You throw in Romeo Doubs. I mean, the Packers draft class is looking really, really good. Really, really good. Before I get to the last two games and a reality check for Packers fans, a reminder, another one of our fantastic sponsors, Nick Packard, nickpackard.com. If your digital marketing agency is underperforming, or if you don't have a digital marketing agency for your small business or your medium-sized business, get a hold of my guy, Nick Packard. He's going to help you out, okay? He's right there in Franklin, Wisconsin. He's a fractional CMO. He's going to deliver and execute all your digital business marketing needs. He's going to improve your SEO. And you're like, Wicket, what's an SEO? It stands for Search Engine Optimization, a.k.a. when I look for something, where does your company come up when I hit that Google button? If it comes up too low or a page low or, God forbid, 2 pages low, you're not being seen. Nick can help you up your digital marketing game, okay? And the best part is, too, he's fractional. You're only going to pay for the time that you need. And then he's got all kinds of plans to fit everybody's budget. He's a big-time Packers fan located right there in Franklin, Wisconsin, and he can help you up your digital marketing game. If you're a small or a medium-sized business, give my guy Nick a shout. Go online today, nickpackard.com, nickpackard.com. And just for checking out the podcast, you're going to get a free digital ecosystem assessment. If you want an outsider's perspective, he's going to give it to you on your website, on your social media, on your email marketing. You can sign up directly and see where you're at. It's the best of both worlds. It's free. Check it out. If your score sucks, then boom, you move in and Nick can help you out. NP Connect, the marketing agency redefined. Go online today, nickpackard.com, nickpackard.com. So here's a reality check. To every Packers fan should listen up. Am I rooting for the team? 100%. 100%. But this 3-game win streak that they're on, they beat the Bears, who are competing for the number 1 pick. They're beating the Rams, who are led by Baker Mayfield. Okay, real quick. They beat the Bears, who are competing for the number 1 pick. They beat the Rams, led by Baker Mayfield, who have no Cooper Kupp, didn't have Aaron Donald. And they beat the Dolphins after Tua got concussed. I am not certain, I am not confident that this team is really, truly a contender. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but those 3 wins, those aren't terribly impressive. They're wins, and you beat who's on your schedule, and you want to get in the party, and I get it. And the Bengals were the 6th seed last year, and they went on to the Super Bowl, and magic can happen, and the Packers won the Super Bowl in 2011 because of the 2010 magic carpet ride that happened, and you can't take that away from them. But they haven't beaten anybody good all year other than Dallas once. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but that's where the Green Bay Packers are at right now. They're not great. Their defense is incredibly inconsistent. The running game, they abandon for at least 2 quarters a game. Rodgers still plays a lot of hero ball. If they beat Minnesota and they beat Detroit and the Commanders lose a game, awesome, they're in. and I'll root like heck, wearing my Packers gear, like you will. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a Super Bowl team. This team can't beat San Francisco in an NFC Championship game at Lambeau, much less playing out in San Francisco in the Bay. This team can't go to Philadelphia if they have Jalen Hurts. Heck, if they have Gardner Minshew. They can't beat the Eagles. I hope they can. I want them to. But they have shown nothing that should make you believe that they're good enough to do either of those things. I know, what a downer, right? What a bummer. But I'm not going to sit here and BS you. I'm not that kind of guy. That's not what this is about, all right? It's a fun run that they're on. And they can beat Minnesota, who's a complete fraud, at Lambeau. And probably, let's say Minnesota's the 2, and Green Bay does sneak in at the 7. Green Bay can go to Minnesota and win. Anybody can go to Minnesota and win. That's a fraud team. That is a fool's gold team. And let's say they beat Detroit at home. They should be able to beat Detroit at home, but who knows? They couldn't beat Detroit at Ford Field. But this is not a great Packers team. It's been if they are able to actually pull this off and make me eat my words, and they're able to win a playoff game, that is a heck of a coaching job done by Matt LaFleur. That is a heck of a run by this squad. Because they're doing it with nobody in the wide receiver room except a couple of rookies. And you know how I feel about Christian Watson. Love him. But look at the other playoff teams. You're talking about Philly with A.J. Brown and Minnesota doing it with Justin Jefferson. And yeah, Debo's been hurt, but Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle in San Francisco. And Green Bay's got Watson and Randall Cobb and Romeo Doubs. Maybe next year it's a different story, but make me eat my words. Make me eat my words, Green Bay. Thank you very much for checking out the podcast. I've been sitting on this for a bit. How happy I am that they've been on this streak, but a reality check, because they're just not that good. Hope I'm wrong. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Tell a friend, tell a Packers fan. You can check out everything you need for Wisconsin sports, whether it's the Packers, the Bucks, the Brewers, the Badgers. Go online today, wisportsheroics.com, Wisconsin Sports Heroics. Subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts. As always, thanks for listening to Wicked on Wisconsin. My name is Mike Wicked. Go Pack, go Bucks, and go Brewers.